Hey guys, welcome to PQF Academy. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. So remember, what we need is we need our notebook and a pen. Remember, we're going to be writing things down. We need a timer. We're also going to be timing things together so we can actually learn how to sell these bags and do that types of stuff also, right? We need some type of cutting tool, whether it's this or a pair of scissors. One thing I did forget to mention that you don't need some type of weights, but I always like to have weights at the end of the day. I have a vast variety of weights. What this does is help hold the pattern down steady on the fabric when we go to cut it. Remember, we need 2 yards of SF 101. This is the interfacing. What interfacing typically does, it gives a little bit more like stability, like more oomph, a little bit of bulk, but not a lot of bulk. That's what this is gonna give it. So it's gonna make it kind of almost fluff out just a little bit. That's what I like to call it. That's what I like to say. I know there's some other terms and things of that nature, but that's what I like to say. All right. You're gonna need 1 yard of fabric. The first video was a different kind of fabric. I actually had to switch it because of typically when you get a fabric on the roll, it's typically anywhere from 45 to 56 inches wide, right? And then your length is 36 inches, which is typically a yard. So I got a yard of this. I have a yard, remember, a yard of this. Typically, like you want to see, is it wants to be about anywhere from 46 to 52, hopefully more than 50. I'm going to show you something when it comes down to the strap, because mine is not long ways. It was 45, I believe, or 46 width, I should say. It was 46 of the width. So I'm going to have to show you a technique when you don't have enough to put it on the fold, but we can get through that. A yard of interfacing. Remember, once again, this interfacing can be any color: red, black, blue, whatever color you decide that you want to make. And also, we're going to need our pattern. All right, we're going to need our pattern that we created on Monday. Now, another thing that you're going to also need, you're going to need your sewing machine, and you're also going to need an iron. And I'm going to show you and take you through those steps why you need the iron when it comes down to the seams. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to take our lining fabric and lay it down. We're going to take our main pattern piece. And what we're going to do with our main pattern piece, try to get it as close to the edge as possible. You don't have to put it on the edge, but just get it as close as the edge as possible. All right. What that's going to do, that's going to eliminate some waste, and it's you're not wasting all of the fabric. You're probably also wondering, why did I tell you guys to get a whole yard of fabric when I'm not going to use the whole yard? Me personally, I like to say be safe. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put my weights down on here. Now, I did forget in the middle, I did tell y'all to make sure you have your measuring tape. And the reason why you're going to have your measuring tape is because what we're going to do is we're going to measure basically where we're going to cut. So I know that I'm going to cut as close as to this line right here as possible. All right. The same here, I'm going to cut here also. But what's going to happen is you're going to have some waste when you cut here, and when you cut here, and when you cut down here. We're not putting this on the fold. Let me put that way. We're not putting this on the fold. All right. We're just going to put it right up here above the fold. But when we cut these, we're going to have some waste. All right. So I'm going to go here, come here to the edge of this right here of my pattern, come across and come all the way over here to the edge. As you can see, that's 15.5. That's 15 and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and take my notebook, write down 15.5, and now I'm going to do the same way the long ways. That's 18.5 from top to bottom. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm coming all the way up here to measure from here to here. So that's 18.5. Now, I want you guys to remember those numbers and keep those numbers. Make sure you have those numbers written down. Now what I'm going to do, whatever timer that you decided that you wanted to get, I'm going to go ahead and start my timer, and then I'm going to start cutting. All right, I'll be right back. So what I want you guys to do is go ahead and cut up, cut here, and cut here also. So basically, when you're done, your fabric should look just like this. All right, so timer starting. So I have all of my pieces. I have my piece cut out for my lining. All right, so it took me, that's how long it took me to cut it out. We're going to keep this. We're not going to reset it or anything. Typically, when you're doing this, you're going to constantly, when you're cutting out all of your pieces, you are going to typically continue to have your timer going, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and get to the exterior fabric. So now we have the exterior fabric. Same thing with the exterior fabric. We're going to lay out our pattern. All right, we're going to lay out our pattern. Our pattern is laid out. Now, remember, I said I wasn't able to put this on the fold because when I put it on the fold, it gets off. It's off maybe by what? 2.5, maybe 3 inches. It's off. So I still want mine to be at least 50 inches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it just like this. Just how I have it. Just how I have my pattern. That's going to cut two pieces. It's going to cut 2 pieces of it's going to cut 2 pieces of my main body. It's going to also cut 2 pieces of my strap, because what we're going to do also, I'm going to show you, just in case if you've never had if you don't have enough, or you run into the problem I ran into where it doesn't fit all the way onto the fabric, because my fabric, like I said, width-wise was 46 instead of it being typically like 50, 52 or something of that nature. So I'm going to put that there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put my things back on, my weights back on. Now, one thing when we're measuring, when we're writing this portion down, because it's almost the same when we did it with the lining. You can take and you can, stretch it over and things of that nature. I know if this wasn't folded, I know it's 46 width, right? I know the width is 46 and this is 36, right? So I'm going to put 46, 36. Now I know you're probably like, well, but this is whole section right here that's not going to be cut. Right here we have enough fabric right here, but at the same time I'm going to, what they basically call, I'm going to destroy it basically too. So it's not going to be enough fabric to, it can make something else, but you would have to kind of like specially do it. But once again, this is how I do things. You can, if you find a different way of doing something, or a different way, or somebody tells you a different way, awesome. Whatever way makes you feel comfortable. But once again, this is the way I do it. So remember, we have these numbers written down. We have 15.5 by 18.5 for the lining, 46 by 36 for the exterior. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut out all these pieces. Typically, like I said, you will have your timer constantly continue running as you're cutting the pieces. Regardless, you'll never stop. But I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer, and then we'll be back. So now I have everything cut out. I have 2 lining pieces. All right, I have 2 lining pieces. I have 2 exterior pieces. Typically, you would only have 1 long strap, but me, I have 2 straps, all right? And I'm gonna show you what to do once again with these straps. Now, what we're gonna do also, we're gonna take and go over to your ironing board. You're going to take and interface all of this together. I always like to tell people, make sure you read the instructions on how to do it, what temperature and things of that nature and everything. What side is the interfacing side to where, the sticky side basically, and things of that nature. So we're going to go and take and interface all of this. Now, even with the interfacing, right? Even with the interfacing, the interface says mine is saying it is 15 by 2 yards. So 15 by the width and 2 yards. So which is what, 24 by the length, right? So I'm going to write that down because I'm going to use all of this. We're going to use all of this. All right. Now, I always tell people when you cut this and you have scraps, try not to throw your scraps away because they can come in handy later on down the line. All right. But so I'm going to write down 15 by 24. All right. Here you can abbreviate things. That's IN me for interfacing, main, front, back, RL, front, back. All right. So we're going to remember all these numbers. Okay. So once again, we're going to go take this over to the ironing board. We're going to iron this all together. And also don't forget your timer. While you're interfacing all of this, you're going to have your timer going. Okay. So typically this would already be out of the package. So I'm going to, matter of fact, let's just do that now. Take this out. Take this out of the packet. I'm not going to use that as time. It's out of the packet. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my timer and let's go. I forgot one thing when interfacing this. Make sure you're interfacing the back side. Now, if you have a print that's like this where it's the same on each side, whatever side, I always tell people, whatever side seem the lightest, that's going to be the inside. The one that's the darkest is the side that's typically going to be the back side. But if your print is like this one where there's no front or back, you can't really tell the difference. Just go ahead and interface that any way you would like. All right. All right. So I have everything interfaced. Off camera, I cut everything out. I still had my timer running, but I cut everything out. For me, this is the scraps I had left over. I'm going to keep these because these scraps can come in handy when there's certain spots that you can't get when you're interfacing things. So you can just grab these scraps and then iron them on. And also when we get further down the line, you're also going to see how good they work. They work also for like hardware when we get there also. All right. So I'm going to put these off to the side. Now, I have everything interfaced and everything, right? So so what I'm going to do, we're going to take our lining piece and our exterior piece and we're going to lay them flat and we're going to line them up, right? We're going to line them up, make sure they're lining up. Now, I forgot to tell you to get pins and put pins on them. But, forgot to tell you to get pins. But if you have pins, turn around, grab them now. And then what you're going to do, you're going to pin all the way down here. And then you're going to pin all the way down here. And then here, what you're going to do for the lining, you're going to pin to about right here. And then you're going to stop on both sides. You're going to stop on both sides. You're going to pin right here, all right? So we do that to here. And we also do the exact same thing onto our with our exterior also. We're going to do the exact same thing, right? But remember, as you're doing this, when you're pinning and you're putting these together, your timer is still on. The reason why my timer isn't on is because I'm explaining this to you, but your timer is on. All right? So I know for a fact, for me, I typically don't pin, so my timer is not going to be on because I line everything up. And as I'm sewing, because I'm a little bit more experienced, as I'm sewing, I just go ahead and just line it up and sew it that way. All right. So typically I don't pin. I don't typically pin, right? But I also want to say, do you see how the interfacing kind of like changed the fabric? The fabric's a little bit more stiffer. It feels a little more strong and durable and things of that nature. That's what the interface is for. It's to help that. Give it a little bit more bulk. Give it a little bit more strength. All right. Now, remember, this is kind of a bonus because I have two pieces of strap, right? If you had a directional piece or something of that nature, you would line them up like this and then see how the direction and stuff goes. Since mine is not too directional, I don't really have to line it up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and flip this perpendicular, I think it is. Yeah, perpendicular this way, almost to a 90 degrees. Flip it 90 degrees. And I'm going to line it up like here. So this corner edge is going to be lined up with this corner edge right here. They're going to be lined up. I will pin. Wait, I'm sorry. I know some of you guys are beginners. So what I'm going to also do is see where this edge is for this one. Is I'm going to slide this over just a little bit so I can know exactly where my edge is going to be for this. So I'm going to take a pen and then draw a dot right there, right? Then I'm going to put that right back right there. Now, typically, you'll grab a ruler because what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line from here, this dot, all the way up to this one right here, all the way up to this edge right here. You're going to draw that just all the way up to there, right? Me, I typically just go ahead and sew it. I don't draw the edge, right? But what you're going to do is pin this in place to make sure it stays, all right? Once you have it pinned in place, then we're going to go head over to the sewing machine so I can show you how to sew it. Like I said, sorry, I don't have to show you how to sew it, actually. You can just go ahead and sew it starting here. Don't forget the back stitch, and then go all the way up, all right? Remember, we're going to start sewing from this corner, and we're going to go all the way up to this corner, all right? Remember, when we're doing all of this, once again, your timer is on. Typically, my timer is not on because if I have to do this, I just go here, boom, and then I'm at the sewing machine already sewing it, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn my timer on and go ahead and sew this up, and I'll be right back to show you what else to do. Okay, now that I have everything, I have this sewn up, so it should look like this. It still should look like, I don't know, an L, whatever you want to say it is, whatever you want it to say. This is how it should look, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go about, I don't know, 1/8, maybe 1/4 away from the seam. And I'm going to take my rotary cutter or my scissors and cut this way. From to the right, I'm going to cut straight up, all right? Taking off this access piece. All right, so I have that cut. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this over to, you're going to take this over to the iron. Remember, your timer's on. You're going to take this over to the iron. And what we're going to do, we're going to open it up. I like to typically, I'll press this part, and then I'll open it up, right? And then if you like me, I kind of try to open this a little bit and press it open. But if you press it open because of what we have to do. So we're going to open this, if you can get it open. If I can get it open. Open this up a little bit. And then we're just going to press this open, all right? So we're going to press this down. When I get over to the ironing board, it'll probably be a lot easier for me to open it. Up, there it goes, right? So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to press this down, all right? Remember, my timer is going to be on when I'm doing this. And your timer is going to be on. Remember, when you're doing this, regardless, I'm going to constantly continue to say this. When you're already sewing and you're cutting out everything, as long as you are doing something as far as cutting, sewing, interfacing, your timer is always going to be on. All right, I will be right back. So as you can see, I have this pressed open. So it's all pressed open. Now, how do we make the strap, right? So typically what I would do, I'll go over to the sewing machine. Over to the ironing board. I would fold this, right? I'll fold this, and then I'm going to press and fold the whole entire strip. Press and fold the whole entire strip. Now, once I have that folded, what's going to happen is, and I have that press, it will give me a line to show me where I'm supposed to take and flip this into the middle. And then what I'll do that, and I'll press. And then I'll take the other side and do the exact same thing, right into the middle. And press all the way down until it's just like this, and it's going to be folded up all the way down like this. Once I pressed it and did all of that, then I come back, and then I just fold it one more time. And then I'll press and press and press. All right? So, once again, we're going to fold it in half, hot dog style, as they would call it. Fold it in half, hot dog style, all the way down, and I'll press all the way down. Open it back up. Fold it this way. Fold one part right to the middle. Press. Do that all the way down. Same thing. Fold that into the middle. Press. Keep folding. Press all the way down. Now, once all of this is pressed this way and it's like that, I'll take and line these up, fold this again hot dog style, and press all the way down. I'll be right back, and I'll show you. Remember, your timer is going to be going while you're doing this. Now, after you have everything folded and pressed and stuff, so this is how it should look. This is how your strap should look. Your strap should look just like this. If your strap doesn't look like this, you might want to rewind the video and listen to what I said. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to take all my pieces. If you want to, you can, but you don't really have to. You can pin all the way down, only on one side, right? You only have to pin on one side. You don't have to pin on this side, but you can go pin all the way down, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to the sewing machine. And once again, so what I'm going to do here on my lining piece, you're going to pin. You should have this pinned all the way down to here, pin all the way down to here, and then have this pinned to about right here, because we have to turn the bag out when we're done. So this right here will give us a hole to be able to do so. Now on the exterior piece, the exterior panel, you're going to pin all the way down here, and then you're going to pin all the way here, right? You're going to pin all the way here. You're not going to pin here at all, right? Now, when we go to the sewing machine, all of the places we have pinned is where we are going to stitch. So here to here gets a full stitch. Full stitch. Here, here to here, full stitch. Here to here, stitch all the way down, full stitch. Here to here, full stitch. So when you're done, you should technically have 3 holes. You should have a hole here. This should be a hole. This should be a hole. And up here should be a hole. This is going to be the top of your bag, all right? That is, so do not sew this. Once again, do not sew this. You should be sewing on your exterior panel or your exterior main, whatever you want to call it. From here all the way down, and then here all the way across. That's where you're going to stitch. Now over here, remember we stopped here, all right? So when we sew over here, we're going to sew same thing with the exterior, from here all the way down. We're not going to sew here. We're not going to sew these. So it's here to here. Here to here. Now with the bottom piece, we're going to sew we're going to start here. You start here, and then you sew, stop, back stitch. You can either lift your presser foot up, cut the piece, but you're going to restart here, back stitch, and then go here. So there should be about a 6-inch gap right there. All right, 6-inch gap. Now with your strap, you're going to sew the whole way down one side, and then you're going to take and sew the whole way down the other side. All right. So please follow the directions. Remember, we're not sewing here. We're not sewing here. Everywhere we have pinned is where we're going to sew. All right. I'll be right back. So, but don't forget, when you hit the sewing machine, turn your timer on. Sorry, one thing I should have said also, whatever seam allowance you decide that you want, you can do for this bag. There's no particular seam allowance at the moment. There's no particular seam allowance basically. So if you want to do 1/8, 1/4, half-inch seam allowance, or 5/8 seam allowance, whatever seam allowance that you feel comfortable doing at this moment, you can go ahead and do. All right. I just wanted to throw that out there. Also, I should have made it clear, when you're sewing, you're going to sew like almost right along the edge. All right, you're going to sew right along the edge, not sew up here or anything. You're going to sew right along that edge. Same over here, you're going to sew right along that edge, okay? All the way down. Now, with all of this sewn up, you should have your strap should be sewn together. You should have a hole that's right here. So if I go up here where I did not sew, I should be able to come in here and stick my hand in here, right here, right? Should be able to stick my hand in here. You should have a hole right here also, a hole right here also, right? Same thing over here. Now, when I go to stick my hand in here in the top, I don't have a hole down here. I have a hole right here, and I have a hole right here, but I don't have a hole here. So this is how it should look. All right. Now, what I like to do, I like to go ahead and cut off some of this, about 1/4 of an inch. Cut off this. Also cut off this, a little excess of that. cut off the access of that, cut off the access of that, cut off the access of that. And then I'll also take it over to the ironing board, and I'm also going to go ahead and press this seam. You can either press it this way, that way. You can press it open, however you decide you want to do it. However you decide you want to do it, make sure you do it the same way over here, right? If you're going to press it open or press it this way, press it that way, you want to do the exact same thing. Me, I like to press mine open, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to press my strap also to get those, to get that, you know, that thread kind of, you know, solidified into there, all right? And I'll be right back. All right, we're back now, right? So now I'm going to have and use my pins for this one. I always tend to use my pins for this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make what we call box corners. Now this is what's going to give us our depth. So remember what I think depth is. Depth. D-E-P-T-H, depth. What I believe depth is for what, however your bag is going to open up, right? Your bag is going to open up a little. It's going to open up wide. So if you did a 3-inch, if you did 3 inches, 2 inches, 5 inches, that's how wide you're going to be able to open up your bag so you can be able to put stuff in it. So in order for us to make that and do this, what I like to typically do, once again, there may be a different way out here to do it. If you do find a different way, awesome. I'm just here to get you the footnotes and get you started, all right? So I typically like to, let's go on this side. I typically like to go here, right here, open this up just like this. So I'll open it up just like that, right? And then what I'll do is I'll take this bottom piece and then take this bottom piece and line them up right then and right there, right? Take and line them up just like that. I'll take a pin and put that right there. So basically these two are seam to seam, all right? They are seam to seam. Then I'll also make sure that I'll take and pull this out a little like this. Giving that like that. Then I'll take a pin, put it here. Same thing, put another pin right here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is opened up. Pin here. And a pin here. All right. Now, when you're doing this, my timer isn't on because I'm showing you guys, but your timer should be on. Even when we were, I forgot I didn't, when we was cutting things, I forgot to put my timer on, and I didn't tell you guys to put your timer on. When we're cutting off the access for the bulk, make sure your timer's on. Remember, your timer is going to be on the whole entire time when you're doing this by yourself for the first time and you don't need my directions. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do it on the other side just to make sure everybody understood. So find the corner piece, find this piece that's not sewn, turn it this way, open it up, seam to seam. Now make sure that they're going the same way. The seams are going the same way. We're going to go seam to seam. Put a pin here. Now we're going to open this up a little, open this up some more. Then we have a pin here. A pin here. A pin here. A pin here. All right. So when you're done, it should look something like this. It should be able to stand up on its own a little bit, all right? Just for a little bit. Now, when we go to sew this, we're going to sew it. We're going to start here. We're going to come from here to here. Once again, depending on your seam allowance, I think the depth also does help a little bit also. So we're going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, or you can do a 1/4. It kind of helps it be able to open up a little bit more also. So we're going to take it over to the sewing machine. You either do a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch. All right, so we're going to do this to this one. And we also do the same thing to the lining, okay? The lining gets the same exact thing. You do the exact same thing with the lining, all right? And we'll be right back. Once again, don't forget your timer. Don't forget to put your timer on as you're doing this. So this is how your bag should look. They should look like this. This is how they should look. They should look just like this. Like if I go to put my hands in here, they should be able to stand up by their own. All right, just like this. Now, once again, you'll go take this over to the ironing board. You'll cut 1/4, and then you'll iron and you'll press and iron, you know, the seam to hold it, and then we'll come right back. All right. So, as you can see, both of the patterns, both of the bags are inside out. I'm going to take my exterior piece and turn that right side. Now, when I turn that right side, where that seam is, where we did the box seams, I'm gonna poke this out. All right, I'm gonna poke the corners out. If you have like a chopstick, or if you already have a tool, because you've been sewing for a while and you have that tool, go ahead and use that tool and poke those corners out. But hey, I can do it with my fingers, right? Now, what I'm going to do is grab my strap. I'm going to grab my strap. I like to do, once again, my timer isn't on, okay? My clock, my stopwatch, whatever you want to call it, it's not on at the moment because I'm showing you guys this, right? So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to turn it on. Even though I'm explaining, I can still do it. It cuts me some time, and it's still almost going to be the exact same time. So let's go ahead and turn it on, right? So my timer's on while I'm doing this. Now, I'm going to take my strap. Doesn't really matter how you want it. If one side looks better than the other, right? If one side looks better than the other, then you want that side to be face down, right? So I'm going to take my strap, and I'm going to make sure that it's not twisted. I like to just pull it straight. And then I'm going to bring it behind the bag like this. Make sure it's still straight. And then come right up here to the side like this. Then I'm going to take this piece and come down here. Then I'm going to take a pin and pin it. Now what I'm going to try my best to do is make sure this is in the middle where the seam is at. Just going to eyeball it. Make sure it's in the middle where the seam's at. And just put a pin there to hold this in place. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my exterior. I'm going to open that up. And I'm just going to take and shove this bag into it. So basically, my right sides are touching now. It's right side to right side, okay? Put that in there. Be careful, because remember, you do have pins in here. Now, I'm going to take and find the seam. And I have the seam. Now I'm going to put seams together. Now one thing I like to do, since I have the seams together and I have this pinched, I'm going to take this pin out, readjust it. See, as you can see, it's a little off. Readjust and put the pin right back in. All right. Same thing on this side. Find the seam. Seam the seam. Take this pin out. If I have to readjust, I'll readjust. This actually was kind of perfect. Put the pin back in. Now I have everything there. Now I don't, but hey, go ahead and pin all the way around the bag. You're going to pin all the way around the bag. Now, once you pin her all the way around the bag, you're going to take and go to the sewing machine. Once again, you can either do a half inch seam allowance or 1/4 seam allowance, all right? When you get to the straps, I always like to go back and forth like 3 times, back and forth. So if I start here and I'm sewing, and I'm sewing, I get about here, I'll go back and forth about a couple of times to make this a little bit stronger. Then go around, back and forth 3 or 4 times to make this strong. And then I'm back at the beginning, back stitch and things of that nature to lock it up. All right, so we'll be right back. Remember, your timer is on. I turned my timer off once I started explaining this, but your timer is going to be on when you're doing this. All right, now that I have all of this sewn up, this is all sewn up, right? Have it all sewn up. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my timer back on, and I'm going to reach inside of here, right here, and I'm going to pull this out. So I'm going to turn my timer on, reach inside of here, begin to pull this out, just like this. Pull. Now, if you do hear if you hear the thread popping, that's on the bottom, that's the hole where it's coming from, that's 100% fine. Trust me, it's fine. There's no bother whatsoever, right? So now I'm gonna take and push this on the inside. Oops. Go ahead and push that in. See how it's sticking out like this? What I'm going to do is roll it to where, you know, it's not sticking out. At the same time, when you're doing this, you can actually be doing this over at the ironing board. Just going ahead and getting this even. All right. Just go ahead and take this over to the ironing board and flatten this out. Press this out. Make sure that until it's even, until you're even around. It doesn't really look like this. It's actually like flush onto each other, okay? It's even like this, all right? So I'll be right back. So we have completed our first bag. We have completed our first bag. Now, if you want to get a little bit more of a better finish, you can go ahead and top stitch this all the way around here. All right, I'm not going to do that right now. If you want, like I said, go around and top stitch all the way around. You'll kind of get right here at this corner, closest to the corner as you possibly can, and just go all the way around. Just go all the way around here to top stitch it. What that's going to do is it's going to make sure it's a little bit more secure in place so the lining typically won't come out and show. But if you press this pretty well, pretty good, it's typically going to stay that way. It will stay inside even after the wear and tear. So, I mean, after the wear, as you're putting stuff in and things of that nature, right? So, we have our first bag. All right. It took me, hopefully you got around the same time, 30 minutes to complete this. All right. We're going to make sure that we write down that 30 minutes. All right, 30 minutes. Took us 30 minutes to complete this. Also, make sure that you kept the receipts to how much the fabric was, how much was the yard of fabric, how much was the exterior, how much was the lining, and also how much was your interfacing. All right. Thank you for tuning in once again with PQF Academy. If you like so far what you're getting out of this, I know we're only in the second video, but if you like what you're getting out of this so far, like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so whenever I post a video on Monday and Thursday, you'll be able to get that notification. Monday, we're gonna go over the pattern again, like we did the last Monday, where we are going to draw up the pattern. But the Monday that's coming up, we're gonna draw up the pattern a little bit because we're still going to use the exact same pattern, but we're not going to have to do too much, so we'll be okay. And I'm also going to show you why we had to write these down, so you'll be able to, if you want to, once we start to progress, be able to sell this bag. Once again, thank you for tuning in with PQF Academy. Have a good one.